Okay, so for those that don't know me, I'm Ray Boardman, and I'm a triathlon and multisport coach. Coach a range of athletes, both beginner and recreation. And I've been coaching professionally since 2000. I've coached, I don't know how many people to complete in the Spring Challenge over the years. And in 2011, I started running training camps specifically for Spring Challenge. I usually conduct them out of Hamner Springs because it's such a great location. You've got the hills right there, you've got great mountain biking trails, you've got the hot pools as well, but I do take the camp on the road every once in a while, but I haven't done that for a couple of years since Hokitika. And although as an athlete I've never done the Spring Challenge for obvious reasons, but I've been involved with adventure racing since the early 2000s, when I used to work for a couple of American-based teams and manage the New Zealand logistics when they'd come over and do what was the Southern Traverse, which is a multi-day sort of 5 to 7 expedition race, similar to what the Godzone is now. And I've also been in a competitor at the Absolute Wilderness event, which is also organised by Nathan and Jodie Farby, who organised the Spring Challenge as well. So that's me and my partner on a training run. Where was that? That was around Lake Rotoiti last year. And there's me and my daughter out in the hills of Marlborough. She's 6 years old now. I don't carry her in the backpack anymore, but we get out and have a bit of fun. It's really great to see. We've got 17 people that have joined us now, so that's really great. This is me and my team from the Absolute Wilderness a couple of years ago, based in Murchison at the finish line. We had a big day. On my right, or on the left of the screen, is Susie, who's a long-term athlete client of mine that I've been coaching for many years, and one of her good friends and Spring Challenge teammates, Letty, on the other side. They helped me out about effectively guiding them through the Absolute Wilderness, and they had a blast doing that. Just before we go on, I'm going to get one more poll, and looking at what or how many Spring Challenges you've done in the past, so I can get a bit of a feel for the experience that is listening in. So if you can shoot through your answers, we'll give you about 30 seconds to do so, and then we'll move on. So I've got another quick picture to show about before we talk about what we're going to cover tonight. Awesome. I'm going to close that off in about 10 seconds, so if you haven't voted yet, please do so quickly. And if you're just joining us, quickly fire in a quick answer, and I'm going to close that off in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thank you everyone for that. So a quick summary in terms of the overview of the participants. 57% of you out there today, the Geraldine Spring Challenge is going to be your first one. 21% of you have done a few Spring Challenges over the years. 14% Golden Bay was your first time, and another 7% have done one before, but it wasn't last year's. In terms of the distance that you're doing, 89% of you are doing the 6 hour, which is really great, with the remainder doing the 3 hours. We've got no 9 hour competitors here, so it's all people that are taking that next step possibly, or challenging themselves for the first time. So on the left of your screen is another long-term client of mine, Di Chesma, and her Spring Challenge team from 2014. She's done Spring Challenge a few times. She did the North Island Rotorua-based one last year, and you see my daughter in the back of the van there, peeking through, photobombing in the background. And I've just got a wee comment from Di that she wanted to get put in with this. So I'm just going to read through this quickly. I did the Spring Challenge 3 hour entry-level event. This is referring to the 2014 one, which was her first Spring Challenge. Being a team event, it proved to be a great opportunity to share the experience with others, learning each other's strengths and weaknesses along the way. It was important to be positive and support each other to keep the team functioning as one. The water section in an inflatable raft was fun. One of our team members had a real fear of water, which was most likely shared by many other competitors. With little time to think about it as we clambered into our raft, She took charge of her paddle and we made our way through this section in good time, passing some others on the way. High fives all around. Each raft travelled with a guide experienced in rafting. Our guide gave us tips on where to sit in the raft and how to paddle. Until that moment, I've never been in an inflatable raft. Due to intense rain through the previous night, we encountered a lot of mud on the by-foot sections. This made things a lot of fun. Found it quicker to slide down on my bum rather than try and stay upright. The mountain bike was mainly on gravel road. I'm sure the 6 and 9 hour events probably ended up biking on some trails that required a little more technical skill than ours did. I'm just going to skip out some of this because it's quite long. I feel that the map and compass reading skills did not need to be of a high level for the 3 hour event. It was easy to see where other teams were heading and where at times took the risk after a quick look at the map and following them, assuming they were going the correct direction. All in all, it was a great introduction to adventure racing. There's a lot of camaraderie between the women's teams. So if you're a first timer or you're doing the 3 hour event, you can get through it comfortably without having a super high technical skills with either navigation or mountain biking. The courses are achievable and very well managed to help people achieve the success. So for tonight's presentation, we're going to look at the key, or what you need to do for the keys to success from training, some training ideas that you and your teammates can do, looking at some equipment, and also support crews. I'm just quickly seeing I've had a few questions pop up, so I'm just quickly going through these. I trust you can see the slides now, Krissy. Joe, no, you shouldn't be able to see me. Karen, I'm not sure how long ago you wrote that question. You should be able to see the screen now, hopefully. If not, can someone jump on and mention that that's still the case? Sorry, I'm not the most technical. I'm reasonably new to this technology. Still seeing thumbnails. No, wrong button. Sorry, I'll try and get this sorted. Let's see, does that make it better? Apparently there's only 3 tiny icons at the bottom. Karen, you can only see the woman in pink. Click 1 on the right of the 3. Can you press the green button, green play button at the top? I don't have a green play button on my end, but if that's what's coming up at your end, Jody, try pressing it. Play PowerPoint. Green button. Sorry, everyone. Okay, apparently I have got one somewhere, Joe. I'll try and find it. Oh, yes. Is that yes, it's working? What did I do then? Is that still working, Krissy? Sorry. Jody, I'll try and get it sorted for you before we move into the bulk of the content. Okay, is that better now, Krissy? I found the play button. Yes, Joe, where's a good woman when I need one? So I take it, Krissy, with all the yeses, and from Julie, we've got it going, and that's all good to go. That's us rocking, is it? No. Yes. Alrighty. Let's roll through these. Those are the ones that we were talking about before. Thanks for the cheeky comments from a few of you. Yes, we're getting there. Alrighty, I'll stick to biking and running, I think, rather than this side of things. But anyway, let's crack on. The keys to success from training. So these are some general comments before we get into some of the nitty-gritty. If you miss a day's training, don't try and catch it up. All you're going to do is add to your overall training load, making you more tired, which will mean you get less out of your respective training sessions. Also, don't get too down about it missing a session. Just move forward with the program that you're working towards and keep going. Talk with your teammates and have a discussion about your personal goals as well as the goals collectively as a team. Also have that conversation about a week out before the race so that you can all get on the same wavelength and reconfirm that, hey, the goals haven't changed, you're still working towards it, or if the goals have changed a little bit, you can all get back onto the same page. Discuss with your support crew what you need or would like them to help you with, especially when you come into the transition area, i.e. specific food or drink to have ready for you girls. And my top tip is have a great attitude. Know you're going to have an adventure and just get out there and have fun. So let's work through 7 keys to success. So consistency is the biggest one of them. Your training needs to be done consistently. If you consistently miss your training sessions, you'll not make any progress to your goals. Your body adapts to the stress of training, and we'll come back to this a little bit later. This training stress improves your fitness. With your fitness enhanced, you'll be able to handle bigger training sessions, longer or more intense training. If you consistently complete your training sessions, you can progress your training, making them longer and more harder, and they won't be so tiring or leave you as fatigued as when you first started training. Try and do some form of training each and every day without exception. Whether it's out there mountain biking or running or something less strenuous such as stretching, it's still enhancing your body, preparing you for the spring challenge. So consistency is the big key. Specificity is also important, and your training needs to be specific. Focus on what the event involves, i.e. navigation skills, mountain biking, trekking, rafting. And I'll touch more a little bit about the rafting later. If you're going to be training for a karate competition, you need to spend time in the dojo. The same applies if you're aiming to run a marathon or half marathon. Your focus needs to be on the running. So get out there and do what's required to get you through the spring challenge. Mountain biking, trekking in the hills, navigation, and some arm work with the rafting. Other activities that enhance your performance, such as stretching, can also be a benefit. As I mentioned previously, our bodies adapt to the stresses that are applied to them. Your arm muscles get used to working in the rafting, and you can train that through other methods if you don't have ready access to a raft. But I'll touch on that later on when we talk about the specifics of training sessions. Your cycling muscles get used to turning the pedals over on your mountain bike, making them stronger, and your running muscles get better at propelling you across the ground as you run or trek through the hills. But you can only get better at doing this if you consistently practice doing it. Recovery is also important, and as your body adapts to the training stress that's applied to it. However, the secret to this is that it doesn't do it immediately. The training actually damages the muscles and breaks them down. Your body adapts to the training whilst you are recovering. Whilst you're not training is when the body adapts and makes itself stronger. Without this recovery time, your body cannot make improvements. A number of things come into enhancing your recovery. Nutrition, and we'll touch more on that a little bit later, and hydration certainly help. So does stretching, and it also helps prevent injury, which is going to be important. Quality of sleep is essential for that recovery, and whilst you're sleeping, that's when most of the enhancements occur, making you better as a result of the training that you've completed. Ensuring you get a good 8 hours sleep each night will ensure you get the most out of your training. There's an old wives' tale that says an hour before midnight is worth 2 after, and this is very true. The earlier you get to sleep, the better the quality of that sleep is. It also means that you're more likely to get a full 8 hours of sleep in. If you're in bed by 9 PM and asleep by 9:30, means you can get up at 5:30 AM having had a full 8 hours. Or it means you can get a full 9 hours through to 6:30 every day. How's that for a quality night's sleep? Next one, hire a coach. Getting expert advice from a professional who's qualified and has a wealth of experience to draw on is a great way to ensure your success. Professionals know what they're talking about and can assist you with a range of things to do with your exercise plan. Well-meaning friends and colleagues don't always know what they're talking about just because they read something on the internet or once talked to someone who did the spring challenge. A qualified coach can plan and prepare a program that is specific to helping you achieve your goals. Nutrition, as the old saying goes, you are what you eat. Nutrition is essential for ensuring that you fuel your body for exercise and also replenish and repair your body post-exercise. Eating good quality nutritious food will help you prepare and succeed your training and then again on the day of the event. Hydration goes hand in hand with nutrition. Your cells contain a high proportion of water, and if they get dehydrated, they can't function properly. Make sure you drink at least 2 litres of waters per day. So putting together a bit of a support plan, I call it the 6 Ps. Proper preparation prevents piss poor performance. And to make sure that you achieve excellent performance or a performance that you're proud of, you need to set a plan as well as get support for that plan. Key people that will play a role in supporting of that plan other than your teammates, your spouse or significant other, a coach, and there's also various Facebook groups out there that can help you prepare and make sure that you're getting the most out of your training and keeping you accountable to getting out the door and doing the training. As I mentioned before, with consistency, if you're not getting out the door and doing the training, then you're not going to achieve that success. So Krissy, here's the picture of you, and I've got a wee quote from Krissy, and she came along to the Hokitika training camp, and so I just want to read through this quickly. My teammate and I attended Ray's Spring Challenge weekend on the West Coast. Having read that Ray was an actual drill sergeant, we're feeling pretty nervous about what the next few days entailed. What it ended up being was a totally awesome few days, gaining insights into all aspects of adventure racing, from bike maintenance, map reading and compass skills, to uphill, downhill rides, bike skills, and a bit of running thrown in for good measure. Finishing up on day 2 with an actual mini event, bringing all components together was brilliant. We went home from the weekend feeling like we were really well prepared for the impending Spring Challenge. We were novices. Other teams on that weekend were experienced and a mix of open and vets. No matter where we sat on the spectrum, we all got heaps out of the training. It was a really great chance to fine-tune our skills, learn some new ones, gain some experience in a simulated event, and not only gain knowledge from Ray on all aspects of adventure racing, but also with the other teams attending. Not only did we get some extra tips over dinner with Ray, we went out and grabbed some pizzas because we were both visiting Hokitika. But when we were at Spring Challenge, we caught up with him after the briefing, just in time for him to look over the route choice and give us a few pointers. I definitely recommend Coach Ray's training weekend. We will be back for sure. And it's good to have you back at the seminar, Krissy. So thanks for those great words, and I know you had a great event in Hokitika. So some training ideas, and this is probably the bulk of the presentation, or the guts that most of you want to listen to it and find out. So I have 3 key training sessions that I get people to focus on when training for Spring Challenge or similar adventure races. Got to get out and have some adventurous sessions. Without them, you're not going to be prepared for the event. Fitness sessions are typically a little bit shorter, often doing them by yourself as opposed to doing them with teammates and other friends and family for the adventure sessions. And they're building on your fitness. And then the recovery sessions. And these sessions are designed to enhance your recovery from more physically demanding training. If you have a big weekend plan, then schedule one on for Friday, unless that's part of the adventure weekend you've got planned, and maybe also for the Monday to recover from the big weekend. Adventure sessions are best done with your teammates in the weekend, but if you can all get out midweek, there's nothing to stop you doing your adventures then. Take a map and compass and have all your compulsory race gear in a wee backpack. Go on an adventure together and practice your navigation. Getting out in the hills is a really great way to develop confidence in each other, develop skills, and build on your experiences. And the fitness sessions, I sort of touched on them briefly but didn't go into much detail. They're designed to make you fitter and can be done with your teammates or by yourself. Having your teammates do these workouts with you will provide motivation and commitment, but if due to circumstances you can't all get together, then that's fine. Fitness sessions are typically less than an hour in duration and are at a higher intensity to build your fitness quickly. Okay, so adventure sessions. To plan a session to do with your teammates, include both mountain biking and hiking / trekking into the session. Get on the internet and find somewhere not too far away from where you live to conduct the session. Google mountain biking tracks or dock tracks to find somewhere suitable to go. Alternatively, get your hands on the Kennett Brothers book, Classic New Zealand Mountain Bike Rides, and find options close to where you live. I'll send through some links later on for the dock mountain biking tracks and also dock walking and tramping tracks. The dock website is a great resource for finding new and interesting locations to go. Plan a session based around a mountain biking ride, and at the conclusion of that ride, put your bikes in your vehicle or lock them on your bike rack, and then head out on a hike or trek, or maybe even a run. Just remember to use shared or pedestrian-only tracks, and don't go off running on mountain biking tracks. Take your pack with you and carry a couple of litres of water and a warm jacket, so you've got it if required, and you get used to carrying a bit of weight as well with the backpack. Aim for a session that's approximately the same duration as the event you're doing. i.e. if you're doing a 3-hour event, aim to spend 3 hours out there, roughly 50-50, so an hour and a half on the mountain bike, an hour and a half running. It doesn't need to be super precise or super long. For weekend-based activities, get out and go on a multi-day adventure. Go somewhere interesting, maybe mountain bike the Heafy track together or the old Ghost Road. Go down to the Alps to Ocean, or up if you're down Dunedin way. The St. James track in the Lewis Pass, Hamner region, Queen Charlotte track in Marlborough, West Coast Wilderness Trail over on the West Coast. They're all really great options for you to get out and bond as a team and go on a decent adventure. Great wee adventures to be had as you train and prepare for the Spring Challenge. Fitness sessions, number of sources, you can just Google them. Heaps of different options out there, going to a spin class. But each week on my website, coachray.nz, I publish a Wednesday bike session and a Friday run session. Also do Saturday swim sessions, but that's not going to be too applicable for what you need for the Spring Challenge. But if you do want to include some swim training, that's also there. Circuit classes and boot camps are a really good way of preparing the upper body for the rafting leg by just developing your overall fitness as well. So there's some really good opportunities from those sort of workouts to mix into your training to build on your fitness. And the last of the 3 different styles of workouts that I get into Spring Challenge programs are recovery and easy sessions. And these are important to keep your training going without overdoing things. They're good for mental as well as physical recovery and include things like stretching or yoga, very low intensity in terms of you're not running around, you're not elevating your heart rate, but it's a good way to stretch and help prevent injury and recover. The more you work on your biking and running and efficiency, will enhance you to be more effective on the day. So the majority of sessions need to be on biking and running and getting out there and doing that. But recovery sessions are going to be key for preventing injury and making sure that you are ready on the day. And Krissy, on my notes, I've got another page with you on it. I'm not sure why that has come up twice, so we'll just skip straight over that and move into the equipment. It's important that you've got a sturdy bike, a decent mountain bike, not a hybrid or a real old mountain bike in poor condition. You do need something that's going to be reliable. If you look back in the last couple of years at the Spring Challenges over at Golden Bay and Hokitika before that, where was it? Queenstown as well in the middle, there's been some really bad weather days, and so having a bike that's reliable is essential, particularly when it gets covered in mud and you need the chain to still keep moving around. Obviously a helmet is also essential. It's going to protect you if you were to have an accident whilst out training or in the event. Having good, sturdy, reliable shoes. Trail shoes are really great. Make sure you go and get some shoes that are going to be fit for purpose and a good fit for your feet. Don't just go into Rebel Sport and buy the cheapest pair that look good on your feet. Go to somewhere that can actually measure your foot, have a look at your foot type, whether they do it with video analysis or a foot scan or a combination of the two, to make sure you're getting in some decent trail shoes that are going to fit your foot and allow your foot to function as it needs to, rather than just look good on your feet and maybe be the cause of an injury. Having a compass and knowing how to use it is also important. The compass is going to help guide you in the right direction with both your training sessions out in the wilderness, but also during the event. If you navigate from one checkpoint to the next reasonably quickly and efficiently by going in the right direction, then that's going to be essential. Having a backpack to put all your compulsory gear in, having a nice lightweight one that's comfortable on the shoulders. You can go to Torpedo 7 or Kathmandu or a number of other great places. MacPack do some good backpacks as well, but check out Torpedo 7. They support the Spring Challenge, so I do encourage you to go and support the sponsors of the event. They're putting effort and finances and prizes to the event that you'll benefit from, so it's only fair that you give something back to them. They've got a good range of backpacks, nice lightweight ones that can fit enough in without being so spacious that you choose to take a whole lot of extra stuff that you don't need that's going to weigh you down. Osprey, yes, that's another good brand as well. Thanks for that tip, Krissy. They do great women's packs. Make sure you've got a decent jacket as well, one that's going to keep both the wind and the rain out if it's needed. And also make sure you check the race website for other compulsory equipment. Support crews, they are the key to your day. Without a good support crew, or even a support crew, the day's not going to be that great. You're going to have to unpack and do everything yourself, but having a support crew take your equipment from transition area to transition area and have the TA set up so that when you come in off the raft or off a bike or off a trekking leg, they've got all the gear there you need, whether it's a towel to wipe all the sweat or the mud and the rain off, to having all your next gear laid out, and hopefully some warm and hot food ready to drink or consume to keep the spirits up, especially if the weather is adverse. Talk to them before the race about what your expectations of them are, so that they know what to expect. And even better, if you can get them out on one of your training weekends, doing one of the adventure sessions, and you go off on a trek or a mountain bike with your team, and they meet you at the far end of it with the gear ready to go off on your trek. or next leg, and then they pick you up at the end of that track. So with a support crew involved in that way, really great training sessions can be developed that you're not reliant on just your teammates and having a vehicle parked somewhere. Make sure you organise your equipment. Have them in those boxes with the good sturdy plastic boxes with lids on. Keep it organised. Depending on the event, I like having a box for each participant in a team that I'm looking after, and having it well labelled so we know where to find gear, and having another one for all the wet, dirty gear to get put into, keeps it separate from everything else. Some people like having multiple boxes for each people, so having all your rafting gear in one box, your biking gear in another, and your running gear in another. If it's a longer event and you've got space to do that, that's a really great way of managing all the equipment. But one box per person plus one for all the wet used gear that's not going to be required again is perfect for the spring challenge. So the key to move forward is to actually get out and do the training. Go on adventures with your teammates, get out and do some fitness sessions. Without learning how to and practicing navigation, you're not going to be able to get out there and make your way through everything. So make sure you know how to read a map and use a compass. And also arrange your support network with your support crew. And your support network doesn't need to be exclusive to your support crew. You can have online friends or even people that you've never met as part of various Facebook groups, etc. It might be work colleagues that aren't going to be there to support you, but they're going to pick up some of the slack whilst you're out training, and maybe allowing you to be late into work so you can get some other sessions done and that sort of thing. So arrange a support network so that you can get the most out of your training. Yeah. So next up, another wee story of one of my athletes. On the left is Ness Gundry, or the left of the screen. And she did, well, I've coached her a couple of times now for the Spring Challenge down Queenstown and also last year in Golden Bay. And she says, I can honestly say Coach Ray's training program this past year well and truly set me up for the 9-hour Spring Challenge. Not only did I feel like sitting down and putting the brakes on, not once did I feel like sitting down and putting the brakes on. Sure, I hit the wall several times, but I had the stamina to move on. I have a huge amount of appreciation for all your support, guidance, and patience, Ray. Also have the utmost respect for Marg, who's on the right, and Rach in the centre. I couldn't have crossed the line without either of them. It was a tough day out, and that was last year's Spring Challenge up in Golden Bay. So before we get on to the questions, and I'll go through and answer everyone's questions, and I'll stay on the line until they're all done. I do have a Blatant Promo. I've got on my website, I've got a 13-week Spring Challenge training program that starts on Saturday. I'm doing it for a special of only $87 for the full 13 weeks. And there's options for 3, 6, and 9 hour, depending on which event you're doing. It also includes a fortnightly coaching call where we'll just do a question and answer session on everything. So if you're interested in that, go to Actually, I've got the wrong address in there. It should be coachraytraining.com, but I'll flick a link through in an email after. So let's crack on with all the questions, and I'm just going to go through and clear out a lot of the questions from, well, they weren't questions, but the advice you're giving me on how to be more computer literate and how to find the button. So if you've got any questions, fire them away by typing them in the question box, and then as I clear through these, we'll get down to them. So thanks Julie and Jody and Krissy and Karen and everyone that's given the feedback about how to find the green button. And oh, Ben, welcome. I've just seen you saying that you're doing the 9 hours, so we do have a 9 hour there. I hope things are going well for you in Kaikoura and things are on the improve from the end of last year. Yes, no, yes from Joe. Obviously I got it working, it stopped, and then it didn't. Krissy, starts and stops. Julie. I'm not going to read all these out. There's some cheeky comments in there. training weekends, Julie. Let me know where you're based, and I'll give you some ideas on where to go that aren't too far to travel from there, Julie. So Lee, I'll read your question in full. It's more of a statement, and then I'll elaborate on it. I guess you'll give details on what to do and for how long on a weekly basis in your program. Yes, you bang on the mark with that comment, but can you give us a rough idea of how many days a week we should train and what the split of adventure, fitness and recovery, etc.? So in terms of, I like everyone to get out and do something positive for themselves every day training-wise. But at least one of those days should be a rest or recovery day where you just focus on stretching and recovery. The other session is going to depend on what your family life's like, how much work you do, because there's a wide variety of people out there in terms of things. So reality comes down to what you can realistically fit in. Some people might only be able to fit one adventure session in a week, and that'll be on one of the weekend days, probably the Sunday, especially if you've got kids sport on the Saturday. Some of you will have the ability to do adventure sessions on both days of the weekend and maybe one in the middle of the week as well. And so with one rest day and between 1 or 3 adventure days, it leaves between 3 and 5 fitness session days the rest of the week. So it is really going to depend on your personal life situation, Lee, in terms of how you can get the most out of yourself. If you're not doing much training now, I wouldn't suggest jumping straight in with 3 big adventure sessions a week. I'd probably start off with 1 and build on that as you go. Hope that answers the question for you, although I haven't given you a black and white answer, sort of given you some guidance there. If you do want a little bit more detail there, Lee, fire in another question with a bit more specificity in it, and hopefully I can narrow it down for you. Krissy, any general advice on nutrition, gels versus real foods? They've both got pros and cons. Real food, particularly in the transition areas, is awesome. A hot soup, when it's cold, wet and miserable in a thermos or straight off a billy in a transition area, is a morale booster. It warms you from the inside out, makes you feel fantastic. And that's every single adventure race I've support crewed for. I've always made sure I've always had the ability to create hot soup at a moment's notice, and particularly in the Southern Traverse, in the middle of the Southern Alps, having that hot food available for team members as they come in is awesome. And I'm sure anyone that's done the Hokitika or Golden Bay Spring Challenge would really have appreciated that as well if they had that capability, or their support crew had that for them. Gels are really convenient, and you can just throw them down and wash them down with a bit of water, and they provide a really quick energy hit to keep you going. And so that's a great convenient source of food. At the end of the day, during an event, if you've got calories going in, that's going to give you fuel to burn for the event. So even though gels aren't necessarily the healthiest, I wouldn't recommend consuming them in every single training session every day of the week. Using them occasionally is certainly okay. And I would recommend trying them in training sessions before relying on them in an event as well. One of the other real foods that I love during an adventure race or a long adventure is leftover pizza. I've been known to have leftover pizza during Ironman, having it in my special needs halfway into the bike, and that's a godsend there. I also had it taken up in the hills many times with me. So real food, it's always a lot more inviting to eat than another gel, especially if you've been having plenty of them. A repeat website, I take it, Michelle, you're meaning for the training program. It's www.coachraytraining.com, and go on, I think it's under programs in there, and you'll see the spring challenge one, or you can join up for the other training or the squad options, which are based on $27 a month as opposed to $87, which is the one-off fee for the 13-week program. So Julie, you're based down in Oamaru. Possibly, I don't know what the mountain biking's like, a little bit further south in Dunedin at Friday Flat. So that could be an option to go mountain biking in there and then doing a run in the hills there. I haven't done much running or mountain biking around Oamaru, but the Alps to Ocean Trail is possibly a good one. Maybe bike out towards Benmore, have your support crew or have a vehicle pre-positioned out there that you can secure your bikes in and then carry on running on the trail. Might be a good option or a convenient option. If you want to travel inland a bit into Tekapo or Mount Cook Village, you've got a lot of options in there in terms of trails and stuff to get on as well. Jody, I'd love to do a top of the south training. I've been trying to find a way of fitting it in. I've got too many commitments at the moment, and I don't have enough spare weekends to try and free it up to do it. I really love to, and I know there's been a few people trying to put pressure on me to do that. I just haven't got any free weekends. I usually try and do 2 Hamner training weekends, and unfortunately, I really can only time-wise afford to do the one. So that's unfortunately all I'm doing this year. Lee, I think that's answered your question as well. Are you doing any other training weekends in Nelson, top of the south? Unfortunately, no. How do you increase your anaerobic ability? By getting anaerobic with your training, Joe. Tanya did an awesome effort by the sounds of it on the Tamaki steps. For those of you not familiar with the Nelson region, it's a series of steps that goes up quite high, quite quickly. And by the sounds of it, she did that 3 times in 20 minutes. Worst ever anaerobic, 0.3. The previous was 22 minutes and anaerobic of 2.3. I take it you're meaning, I'm assuming that you're possibly using a Garmin or some other training device that gives an estimation of how much training benefit you got for the anaerobic system versus the aerobic system with that. Correct me if I'm wrong there, Joe or Tanya. I take those with a bit of a grain of salt. They come up with a pretty rough estimate based on things like heart rate and how quickly you're moving. Obviously, when you're going up the steps, you're not moving as quick as you would on the flat, so it gives a false perception that you're moving a little bit slower than what you normally would because you're working up against gravity. I don't know if it was taking into account heart rate or whether you had a heart rate strap on or if it was a model that reads it straight from the wrist. Those sort of metrics I take with a grain of salt. It's reasonably new technology. It's not well proven yet, so I don't fully believe those results when they come through. How best to train for the raft? It's a tough start to the race. There's no drifting down admiring the scenery, but it's more like doing hard digging in for an hour plus. You're right there, Krissy. The rafting is a hard one to train for without actually going out and rafting. And if you try and go out rafting every single weekend, it's going to get expensive. But if you band together with a couple of teams, maybe you can go to a rafting provider on maybe the Require or something like that and say, hey, look, we've got it. We've got 6 of us here, or a dozen, or however many girls you get together, and say, hey, look, we want a hard rafting session to help prepare for the spring challenge. What can you do for us? And they might be able to come up with something at a reasonable price for you all. Other people have got involved in wakaama just to get used to the paddling. The paddling skills are the same whether you're on a raft or a wakaama, and getting some sessions out there on the water to do that. So those are great tools that you can utilise. But at the end of the day, you don't win or lose a race on the rafting section. And if you save yourself for the mountain bike, or the trekking, the rafting's not the most technical. The guide is doing the majority of the work, guiding you in good position on the river to let the river move you down. You are right, it's not drifting down, and you do need to put in the work, and when you put in the work, you go a lot faster than those that are just cruising down, teaspooning it as the term is, barely putting the paddle in the water. So you do need to make sure you get the paddle in nice and deep and get that movement of the paddle back. But using circuit training or boot camp style classes to build up that upper body strength will certainly have a carryover and pay off there, Krissy. What are some of the biggest mistakes people or teams make? Leaving equipment behind, either at home when you travel to the event, so have a good checklist and make sure you check everything off as you pack it. During the event day, navigation errors is the biggest one, going the wrong way totally, or being like a sheep and following teams that don't really know where they're going and not going the quickest way. So have a look on the map, get to know how to understand how to read a map and use a compass. Look at the map. The fastest way is not necessarily a straight line. Sometimes it's quicker to jump on a road that you're allowed to. It's not an out-of-bounds road, and utilise that to get from point A to C and then cut back into B. Sometimes it might be quicker to go straight through the bush, but often if the bush is there, Rebecca, it's not going to be quickest to go through it, especially if the checkpoint's out the other side. It's often quicker and easier to go around obstacles. So those are probably the biggest mistakes people make. The next one would be fueling, not having enough food and they hit the wall and crash. And when I say crash, not necessarily crash off your bike, but energy levels crash. Hey Julie, the map reading and compass scares the shit out of a lot of people, not just you. I haven't actually looked through too many websites to tell you the truth for training sessions. That I know plenty of people have YouTube stuff. I've had people come to my training camps previously that literally YouTube how to use a compass the night before, and there's some probably well-meaning people on YouTube that don't necessarily give out the right advice. So that can be a double-edged sword. You can find some really great information on YouTube, but you can also find some pretty average stuff. I know there's a few other people out there that run navigation training clinics. I know Girls on Top Adventure. If you follow them on Facebook, they have some really good advice and training sessions relating around navigation. Getting involved with orienteering clubs. I know the Nelson, I'm not sure where you're based, Julie, but the Nelson Orienteering Club does quite a bit of work at the moment. I know the Queenstown Orienteering Club has been doing a lot of promotion for Spring Challenge teams as well to get involved down there. So touch base with your local orienteering club and see what's happening, see what you can learn. Keep an eye out on both my Spring Challenge Training Facebook page as well as the Spring Challenge Facebook page. They often have other people that are doing map reading and compass sessions and pushing the information out there to participants. So keep an eye out on those sort of resources. Jody, you're a complete gel novice. Are there any you would recommend? I really like, well, there's three probably brands I really like, Lepin and Balance. They're both two New Zealand brands. Balance, I'm pretty certain Rebel Sport still stock them. I haven't seen much Lepin around lately, but most bike shops used to stock that. So pop into the local bike shop and see what they've got. And also Goo is a really good brand. It's a lot thicker consistency. It's more, rather than the tacky, sticky maple syrup-like consistency of the Balance and the Lepin, it's a lot thicker and more, how would you describe it, maybe dough-like. So you don't spill it all over yourself and you can literally bite into it. They all come in a range of flavours, so have a look, find something that you typically like and then experiment with that in your training. Rebecca, my food suggestions: new potatoes cooked and cold with salt. Amazing. And you're also recommending don't eat bread at the end of the race. The baked potatoes are fantastic, particularly in long events like the Spring Challenge. That's a really great piece of advice. I'm not sure of your reason behind not eating bread at the end of the race. I know a lot of people avoid gluten. either because they do have a gluten allergy or they just want to avoid it. That's fine, but some people can get a lot of benefit from the carbohydrates that they need to replace by consuming bread at the end of the race. Rebecca, also love to hear some suggestions for weekend mountain biking adventures near Christchurch. I'm a relative mountain bike newbie. Bottle Lake Forest is a really great place. I looked at running some training seminars in there a couple of years ago. You've got lots of options for mountain biking on both single track and through the trees, and also on the gravel forestry roads through there. You've also got easy and convenient parking right there, so you can park up and put your bikes in the vehicle or secure them to a bike rack and then go off on the run. You've also got great options in the Port Hills and also at McLean Island as well. So those are 3 locations. Probably recommend starting at McLean's or Bottle Lake, spending a few weekends there and then going exploring in the Port Hills. So just either Google the mountain biking tracks at those 3 locations, or even getting up to Hamner. You've got, it doesn't take too long to get up there from Christchurch. Hope that gives you some ideas there, Rebecca. Julie, I remember your answering a question before from yours. I can't remember which question that was, sorry. And you were referring to my training weekend. So if you put in another question, I'll get down to that shortly. Jody, how technical can we expect the 6-hour mountain bike to be? Is it suitable to be training on mainly farm tracks, e.g. map track on the withers? So you're a Blenheim local, Jody. That's awesome. The Wither Hills have got some really great ones, particularly around the base of the track. That's what I'd expect most of the trails for the 3-hour to be like. So the majority of them probably for the 6-hour as well, although I would expect there to be a bit more technicality to both the navigation and the mountain biking in the 6-hour. So get up off the base of the farm tracks at the bottom of the hill, and get up into the mountain biking park. I'm just trying to think of some of the names. Head up Skyline and just follow your nose on some of the ones. There's some reasonably technical downhills there. You don't want a full-on downhill mountain biking track. It's not the sort of thing that is usually included in the spring challenge. Having said that, I'm not part of the organising team. I've got no official connection with the event. I don't get to be privy to what the course is before the event, although I do like trying to take an educated guess. And I probably, if I was to mark myself on how good I am at guessing where the course is going to be, I'll say about 80%. Those that have been to my training camps in the last few years will be familiar with my Saturday night pull the maps out, and this is what I think sessions, and how close I've been in recent years. I haven't been 100% at any stage yet. My Hokitika training camp, I set up some checkpoints on the Sunday, and 2 of those checkpoints were pretty much bang on with checkpoints that were in the event. Hopefully that answers your question there, Jody. Joe, using a Garmin Phoenix 5S. Yep, so that is what I was thinking. Like I said, I'm not fully convinced about the accuracy of the information based on the Garmin making a prediction on how much was anaerobic and how much was aerobic and scoring it on a mark out of 5, I think it is. So take those numbers with a grain of salt. What are the best socks to help avoid blisters there, Karen? There's 2 I highly recommend. I pretty much exclusively wear Thorlos whenever I'm training. They're a really nice thick plush sock, really great. You can get them from a lot of good sports retailers, Shoe Clinic, Rebel Sport, etc. Another really good one, particularly if you like thin socks, are the Drymax socks, which you can get through shoe clinics. They're really good at wicking the moisture away from your feet. But having said that, as soon as you run through the first river or creek or decent sized puddle, the socks are going to be wet. They're not going to wick themselves dry, but they're also really good at avoiding blisters. So those are a couple of good options for you. Really good question. I like that one, Karen. Joe, what about VO2 on the Garmin? I believe it's reasonably accurate. The likes of Garmin and Polar have been working on that sort of technology for nearly 20 years now in terms of making predictions about someone's VO2 max. My watch currently predicting me that I've got a VO2 max of 54. I used to be up in the high 60s. I'm not as fit as I used to be. I don't know whether it's 54 or 57 or maybe even 51, but it's a pretty close to roughly where my experience and my knowledge says I'm probably going to be. So the VO2 max prediction from the Garmin's and Polars is pretty close to being reliable. Personal requirements. Do we take loo paper? Depends on expectations is probably the best thing. Whenever I go out into the bush, I do like taking loo paper with me. When you've got to go, sometimes you've got to go. And if there's not much grass or decent sized leaves around, you can be caught in a compromising position between making decisions. And I'll leave it at that for the amount of detail. But yes, I do recommend you do take it. I also strongly encourage you to have it in a secure Ziploc bag and maybe even inside 2 Ziploc bags, because as soon as that stuff gets wet, it's not very good. The other option is having baby wipes. Having a small baby wipe packet, it's really good. Wipe your hands before you eat some food, especially if you've been going through a swamp or some really disgusting mud. Really good if you do need to go to the toilet. And also really good for hygiene in those situations. Just remember, if you are going to the toilet in the wilderness, make sure that if there's any waste, it is biodegradable and preferably buried. The easiest way to bury your waste in the outdoors is to roll a big, decent-sized boulder out of the way, squat in the depression that the boulder made, and then roll the boulder back on top of it. Hey, no worries, Rebecca. I'm glad that was of benefit for you. Stacey, suggestion, test gels in training before race day. Definitely. Krissy, really good question. Is it best to have a lead navigator? Not only do I recommend a lead navigator, but a check navigator as well. That way, particularly if you're doing a longer event, and by the way, a 6 hour, if you're doing a 6 hour, means the expected winning team is going to do it in 6 hours. Some teams can possibly expect to be out there for 11 to 13 hours at the other end of the event, especially if you make a navigation error and go the wrong way. Tell you a story about the absolute wilderness that I did with Susie and Letty. Our expectation was to finish near the back of the field, and back of the field we ended up being dead last. But they just wanted the experience of getting through the event, and we all knew what the team expectation was, so we weren't fazed by possibly coming last. So it started with a raft leg, then onto I'll call it a short mountain bike leg, and then into the trek up into the mole tops and behind Murchison. We got up to the checkpoint at the mole hut, and the official up there asked us what team we were, and I jokingly said, "Oh, there's only one team you're expecting. We're the last team." And he goes, "Well, no, there's 2 other teams that haven't got here yet. I'm expecting 3 teams to turn up." And shortly afterwards, another team turned up, and they'd made a navigation error, and they'd turned up the wrong creek bed, and they were actually one of the top men's teams in the event, and because they'd gone the wrong way, they had to do a whole lot extra. They'd literally gone from first place to last place, going from one checkpoint to the next. So navigation is essential. Having a lead navigator and someone to check on it is really essential. And if all 3 of you are even in your navigation abilities, it might be best to work as a team whenever making navigation decisions, so you can talk through and make sure that you're doing the steps right and working things out correctly. All it takes is to have the map pointing slightly in the wrong direction, and you can take the wrong path to get to where you think you need to get to. Oh, Rebecca, talking I think this is in reference to the bread comment. After race, okay, but not last third. Krissy, I take these as suggestions for the person that's asking about Christchurch training locations. Victoria Park added on to McLean's Island. So thanks for those top tips there, Krissy. Yes, I have stopped the slides, Jody. I'm just going through all the questions that people are typing in. So I've got none of this is prepared. It's all off the cuff. So I don't have any slides to show you for this. Brilliant, thanks. No problems there, Rebecca. I hope you got a lot out of the webinar. Julie, at this stage, no one knows what the split of the activities for the 6-hour event are, unless it's been announced in one of the newsletters. I haven't, because I don't enter. I haven't actually read the newsletters yet. Sometimes people start sharing them to me, particularly as we get close to the training camps and to the event. To give you a rough idea, expect to do maybe an hour rafting at the start of the event after a short run, typically. But having said that, could be a mountain bike as well. So about an hour for the raft, hour and a half is normal. And maybe a couple of trekking legs and a couple of mountain biking legs of up to an hour and a half, 2 hours each. You really won't know until getting close to the event when the course gets finalised. Potatoes, Karen, I did mean during the event. Obviously, it's not going to be a massive baked potato that you're trying to eat during the event, but a small one or a half one. Potatoes are really good for carbohydrate, slow release energy to keep you fueled during the event. You certainly don't want to fill up your stomach so much that you're slow and sluggish. You just want to top things up and keep moving forward. After the race recovery, excellent as well. Rebecca, how many hours a week should you be training? It's once again going to come down to how much time you've got available. If you can get half an hour to an hour Monday to Friday, if you've got a typical Monday to Friday week with kids at school or a working week, then on those days, sort of half an hour to an hour is going to be really good for developing and maintaining your fitness. And then getting out for longer sessions in the weekend is going to be really great. But if you're only doing 2 or 3 hours a week at the moment, if you jump up and suddenly try to do 10 hours a week training, you're going to find yourself really tired, really shattered within a couple of weeks, and may even end up getting sick and run down. So build it up progressively. Don't try and jump in and become superwoman overnight by massively increasing how much exercise you do. If you're already doing sort of 10 to 15 hours a week and you've got the time to increase it to 20, then that's really great as well. So it's going to depend on your training situation or your life situation. Alrighty, Michelle, is there a training in Geraldine, Temuka, Timaru area? I'm not going to be down there running any training sessions, unfortunately. There might be some sessions coming up that some Christchurch-based people are running. I really don't know. Keep an eye out on, if I do become aware of any, I usually post them up on the Spring Challenge Facebook page. Even if they're a direct competitor of mine, I still put them up there. I'm pretty much chocker up with the training I can deliver, and it's all about getting people out there and getting active. So I've got no problems sharing information about training sessions or activities my competitors are running on the Spring Challenge training page. So keep an eye on that, and if something does pop up and I become aware of it, I'll post it there for you and everyone else. Hey, Rebecca, what sort of areas do you guesstimate they'll be using in Geraldine? I haven't looked over the maps. I have passed through Geraldine half a dozen times and I've never done any running or mountain biking there, so I really got no idea. Sorry, Rebecca. Usually about a week out, I take a bit of a guess and make that public what I think. So keep an eye out for that. Unfortunately, I am going to be overseas for Spring Challenge again this year. I was away last year as well. So yeah, I'm not going to be around for that, but I will try and put out my thoughts on what is probably or possibly going to be involved. Rebecca, any suggestions for trail shoes, or should I just go to a shop? Yeah, pop into the shoe clinic. There's really great brands out there, Asics, Brooks, Innovate, Salomon, all make really good quality trail shoes. But if you get put in a shoe that's not good, doesn't work with your foot type, then it's not going to be a good shoe for you, even if it's the greatest shoe that the top female adventure racers or trail runners wear. If it doesn't suit your foot, it's not going to work for you. So make sure you get sized up properly, have a foot scan and video analysis to find the shoe that's going to work best for your foot. Julie, are you going to run a training weekend in Hamner or somewhere else? If so, when? And also, is there still availability? Yes, I am running a training weekend in Hamner, but unfortunately it's been fully booked out. So there's no slots available left for that. So sorry you missed out on that, Julie. Next year I'll be doing the same thing again, so keep an eye out for that next year. But unfortunately I don't have the opportunity to put extra people in it. I try and keep it a small group of 12 people, 4 teams, so that you get really good quality instruction. And I could easily fill it with 30 people, no worries at all. But I want to focus on that quality instruction so everyone gets to learn without just getting snippets of information here, there from me. They do get the quality time and get to learn and develop. Suzanne, for the 3-hour, what litre backpack would be about right? Depends on how much stuff you need or want to put in it. I don't go around trying to say, well, a 12 litre or an 18 litre is going to be perfect in these situations. And what it is, when you're going to look at purchasing something, smaller is typically better because you don't overload it, but it needs to be big enough to fit the minimum equipment in. Some people's jackets are going to be a lot more spacious than other people's jackets, even though it's achieving the same purpose. And so you might be able to fit all your gear in a slightly smaller bag than your teammates, or vice versa. So what I'd suggest when you're going to look at buying a backpack, take in what you need to fit in it with you to the shop and try it out. Once you've packed it, put it on your back and even just go for a little jog around the shop. Talk to the shop assistant, see if they're happy for you to leave your cell phone with them while you go for a jog around the block with it. Just so you can get a feel for how it bounces around on your shoulders, and it shouldn't bounce around on your shoulders. Make sure you do up the waist belt and the sternum strap, which is the top one going from strap to strap, so it fits snugly and firmly and doesn't bounce around and get annoying. Rebecca, any extra equipment that you would take that isn't on the compulsory gear list? No, the gear list is a pretty robust list in terms of what you're going to require. Now, you can probably get through the event without using any of the compulsory equipment, but if the weather's bad or something happens that you do need some of that compulsory equipment, not having it could be the difference between life and death. So make sure you take all that equipment. Even on the training sessions, it's going to be a benefit for a number of reasons. If things go wrong, or the weather turns, or someone trips and falls, or you get stuck somewhere, you've got what you need to stay safe and sort out what's gone wrong. The other thing, when you take it with your training, you get used to carrying that amount of weight on your shoulders and getting used to it. So it's a number of good benefits there. So work on training and getting all your practices, and work on that as what you need to carry. If I was going to add anything to it, add in some food. So you've got some snacks on the way, some scroggin, some muesli bars, some food to eat. Jody, this has been brilliant, Ray. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this. No worries at all. Glad it's been of benefit. Actually, one thing that just springs to mind, I do have a number of articles on my website, coachray.nz. If you go to the search bar near the top there and just type in Spring Challenge, you'll come up with a whole lot of articles. Most of them were written for last year's Spring Challenge. But a lot of the tips and advice can still be beneficial for future Spring Challenges. Some of them are a little bit more specific to Golden Bay. And if you're over in Golden Bay, that might provide some really great training ideas for you. Hey, Krissy's just put a tip in here for everyone. There's a Rogaine and navigation clinic in Timaru on the 20th of August with Wicked Rogaines. So that's a great one for you to tag into. So Google or Facebook Wicked Rogaines, and I'm sure you'll find details of the navigation clinic that they're doing. If you've got a link that you can email or Facebook message to me, Krissy, I'll put that up on the Spring Challenge Training Facebook page. Karen, how well should you eat the morning of and how long before the event, i.e. 1 hour? What should we eat the night before? Now, the night before, I'm a really big believer in carbohydrate loading. I know a lot of people are going the low-carb, healthy fat approach. And if that's you, obviously you don't want to be eating large amounts of carbs, but you will be burning carbohydrates during the event. So it will be important to have some carbs in your system. For those that eat a traditional Western or a more traditional Western diet, carbohydrate loading with pasta or a rice-based meal, I'm a really big fan. I've got a couple of favourite meals I prepare for before races. One's a vegetarian curry with rice. Another one is a nice salmon meal with mashed kumara. They're my two favourite pre-race meals the night before. I think I've got, if you search salmon or vegetable curry on coachray.nz, I think I've got the recipes in there for you. If not, I might have to cook it again in the future and take a photo and write it up and put it on there. As for the morning of the event, some people can't really eat much, particularly when they're nervous and apprehensive before a major event, but I do encourage a light breakfast, so it's not filling your stomach up, but it is giving you a little bit of fuel. A light muesli or something of that nature with some yogurt, some fresh fruit or something might be tolerable. Maybe it's just some bananas or light fruit might be better for other people. As for how long before the event, that's really going to be determined by how far away from the event start line you're staying. You might be staying in the centre of Geraldine, but it might be a 90-minute drive out to the start line. As long as you're eating sort of at least 2 to 3 hours before the start time, it gives time for the stomach to digest that food, get the energy out of it, and you should be good to go. If you've got a reasonable amount of time from when you're having breakfast through to the start line, you might want to top up with something partway through having breakfast and before the race start with something convenient like a muesli bar or some more fresh fruit. Hey, thanks Rebecca, this has been brilliant, many thanks, and thanks for answering all the questions. Your job sounds really fun. Good to hear you're so busy. Yep, I do a variety of things and do really enjoy coaching and helping people to achieve success in events, whether it's Spring Challenge or doing their first half marathon or Ironman or something like that. Hey, no worries, Ben. Thanks again. All the best for the event and for your training, and keep in touch as well. Actually, I'm going to put on a blatant plug here for a great event a few weeks out from Spring Challenge, and that is the Whale Run in Kaikoura. If you're Christchurch based or anywhere in the South Island, really, try and make your way to the Whale Run in Kaikoura. It's an awesome event. It's an old school fundraiser for the school or one of the schools there. I've been and done it a few times. I'm going to be overseas again this year, so I'm not going to get there again. It's a really great community event, so check that out. I've shared the link for Whale Run a few times through the Spring Challenge Facebook page, but I should do that again. If you can give me a reminder, Ben, I'll do that in the next few days. The reason why I'm mentioning this now is Ben's involved in organising it and fundraising around Kaikoura, so yeah, and blatant plug on behalf of Ben for a really great event that's really nicely timed. If you're doing that Rogaine again, Ben, can you type it in the questions and I'll put those details out there in this forum as well. Thanks, Krissy, for the link for those Rogaines. It's wickedrogaines.nz/just-for-girls. But if you can Facebook message me as well, Krissy, I'll put it up on the Facebook page, because when this webinar's over, those details are gone and I won't be able to get back to them. Stacey, see you in Hamner. Yes, definitely. Looking forward to that weekend. It's always a fun weekend. Long weekend for me. Spend most of Friday sorting stuff out. But it's and then packing up after you girls leave. But it is a fun weekend. Joe, no worries. Thanks, Ray. Awesome webinar. Hey, awesome, Melissa. It's great that you're going to be signing up. Welcome on board to the team. Obviously, you'll be getting a bit of information from me in the next few days, but thanks for that. I'm sure you'll get lots of benefits, and congratulations for coming on board. Krissy, huge thanks, Ray. Very motivating. Great to hear your tips and answers to our questions. No problems at all. Looks like I'm getting to the end of the questions, and yep, Krissy is going to send those details through to me, so I'll put them up on the Spring Challenge Training Facebook page. So I've got to the end of the questions. I'm going to stay online. If you do have more questions, start firing them through again. If not, thank you for attending. I trust you got what you wanted out of it. If you haven't got what you wanted out of it and got some specific questions, jump on and type it in there. Happy to stay on and pass on advice and guidance. No worries, Karen. Thanks heaps. Easily done. Seeing the numbers slowly starting to drop. No worries, Julie. Your thanks is appreciated. Jody, do you have any recommendations for treating blisters during the race? Best tip is to avoid them to start with. The next best tip, if they do come, is to just take them and minimize any friction. Make sure your shoes are done up firmly, not over tight, but firmly, so your foot isn't moving around within the socks or the sock in the shoe, because it's that friction that causes the blisters. Really good quality socks, either the Thorlos or the Drymax, are a great way to go. Again, the cheap $5.95 socks from the warehouse or from Kmart or somewhere. The cotton, it's a recipe for disaster. You're literally asking for blisters. So invest, and you're looking at about $20 a pair for Thorlos, but trust me, it is really worth it, especially a new pair of Thorlos. So comfortable on the feet. Hope that helps there, Jody. Tash Green, thanks very much. Bring on Geraldine. Yes, definitely. Have a blast down there. Jo is sharing her tip. Blisters, use Woolit. They're amazing apparently. I'm not familiar with them, but www.woolit.co.nz. So Joe obviously rates them, and natural fibres are really good at minimising friction, so wool would be great for that. I'm not sure if they're merino or just regular wool, but either way it's probably going to be really good and also keep your feet warm. Michelle, not sure whether to drink Spades or TV export afterwards. What do you recommend? I did most of my university study in Dunedin, so I'd have to go Spades. But if I was choosing from a wider source, I'd probably choose a more of a craft beer, even though Emerson's and Stoke beers are a little bit more commercial these days. They're not bad places to start. So once again, I've got to the end of all the comments and questions, and the number of attendees online is going down. So thanks for your attendance. If you're signing up, congratulations on coming on board part of the team. You'll get a lot of benefit from not just the training sessions in the program, but also out of the coaching calls every fortnight. Keep up the great work, keep your training consistent, and keep your teammates honest as well. If you're keeping them honest, they're most likely to be keeping you honest, and you're going to get the most out of it. But keep the expectations on the same page as your teammates. If I don't have any more questions come through in the next 60 seconds, I'm going to wrap things up. Thanks for your attendance, and for those of you that I'm going to be seeing in Hamner, I shall see you then. But everyone else, all the best for Geraldine. Hey, no worries, Michelle. That's easily done. I can see a few of you are still online. I'm going to stay on for another 30 seconds, and if no further questions come through, then numbers are going up. Yeah, if no more questions come through in the next 20 seconds or so, I'm going to wrap things up. Thanks for your attendance. Alrighty, with no further questions, I'm going to end. Have a great one, those of you that are still there.